Okay, John, what are your thoughts about Wānaka Airport?
My thoughts about Wānaka Airport is that it shouldn't be developed substantially from what it is at the moment. I never believed the two airport model made sense. You can see that you could have a turboprop service if it was really necessary. It was certainly successful in the past and I used it. I certainly wouldn't want to see jets flying into Wānaka Airport. But it has the advantage that it saves people driving over to Queenstown and all the hassles that involve in that if there is a turboprop service, but it's not a high priority.
Great. Can you outline the key learnings from the recent High Court ruling about Wānaka Airport?
I would say that the key ruling or the key outcome of that is the council's failure to actually consult its community before taking such a strategic decision about a community asset.
Yes, and did you read the judgment at the time, or?
I read the précis of the judgment. I don't believe I read the whole judgment at the time.
Can you describe how you've informed yourself about airport issues?
Just generally from reading up the material from the Wānaka Stakeholders Groups, reading some material from the council and from the Queenstown Airport Corporation, and just general background knowledge around people's desires for air transport.
Did you read the Martin Jenkins report that the council?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did read the Martin Jenkins report.
Yeah, and you had any views on that, or?
At this point, not strong views at this point. But to me, I've sort of moved on a bit from that issue as the issue seems to have, if not been resolved, at least heading in the direction that we want it to head into.
Who do you believe should determine the future evolution of Wānaka Airport?
It needs to be a district-wide decision, but certainly the Wānaka community needs to be a clear and substantial voice in that decision.
And what do you know about the Wānaka Airport Liaison Committee?
I believe that this should have been set up a number of years ago, and that council has delayed setting this up. I know there is now a move to try and get this set up.
So there is provision in the district plan for the Wānaka Airport Liaison Committee, but as you say, it hasn't been established. If you're elected, will you promote and support the establishment of the Wānaka Airport Liaison Committee? And
Absolutely.
Can you describe how you might do that?
Absolutely. Obviously, this would be an issue that all the Wānaka councillors or community board members would need to push collectively. It would be an issue that we would raise through either with the chief executive, either through council or through the community board and our councillors.
What do you see as the key issues and considerations driving the airport's future?
The Wānaka airports or the airports in general?
The Wānaka airports.
The Wānaka. I never saw the sense in the two airport policy that Queenstown Airport Corporation had. To me, it never made sense duplicating the facilities. The only option that I saw long-term possibly was the desire for Queenstown to outsource its airport effectively to an increasingly sized Wānaka airport. I think any serious development of Wānaka Airport would just put us in the position that Queenstown is in now. The potential growth of the community, Wānaka Airport will be on the bounds of the town by the end of its life. So I really don't see that it's the right place for commercial development. I believe it should stay as it is, which is basically a service airport for local aviation industry and scenic flights.
Great, thanks. What's your stance on, broadening it out a little bit now, what's your stance on carbon emissions, and what should the Queenstown Lakes District Council do, being as specific as possible?
Carbon emissions, particularly from international air travel, are a concern because they're not picked up by any country's carbon emissions and carbon emission controls. In terms of overall carbon emission issues, I think our biggest area is public transport or transport. I think we need to be providing alternatives to vehicle use where we can. either on-demand public transport, looking at how we can provide public transport to smaller communities, encouraging alternative means of transport. In terms of aviation, that's much harder to address. We can try and look through the airport corporations trying to, rather than be carbon neutral, try and be carbon positive by actually doing some planting or some other method to try and reduce the impacts of the aviation carbon emissions.
And can you outline your position on the proposed new airport at Terrace?
Yes, I support that with quite a lot of conditions. I think if you were starting from scratch and you were looking at an airport to serve the whole region, a central airport which would serve Wānaka, Cromwell, Alexandra and Queenstown in one location makes sense. It doesn't make sense currently as in competition to Queenstown. So if it could be developed on a strictly carbon neutral basis and it involved the closure of Queenstown Airport, the release of that land and the capital value of that land to council to invest in infrastructure for the whole Queenstown Lakes community, then I would be supportive, but not as a second airport. It doesn't make sense. But as one airport to serve the whole community, I would support it. So it's a very conditional yes.
And you're standing for the Wānaka Community Board as well as for council. How do you see the role of the Wānaka Community Board and where should it fit with council?
The Wānaka Community Board needs to be the clear voice of the Wānaka community at council. If you look back at about, I think, 4 terms ago, the Wānaka Community Board members sat on the various council committees. Anything that was Wānaka related went through the Community Board before it went to full council. If the Wānaka Community Board supported it, it gave a lot of weight to the Queenstown councillors being obliged to support it. So I think all Wānaka issues should come first to the Community Board and their recommendations should have weight at council meetings. And
finally, you've got the floor. You've got a minute to address the people of Wānaka. So it's over to you to tell us what you stand for.
Thank you. So I've been active in the community for pretty much the whole time. I've been here 24 years. I'm very keen on Wānaka having fair access to Queenstown Lakes resources and priorities of using those resources. My experience in several areas that I've been active in is that Wānaka tends to be the second fiddle. They'll try something in Queenstown and say, well, if it works there, we'll try it in Wānaka later. Active transport's an example of that, setting up tracks trusts. So I believe it's important that the Wānaka community try and work together to push our interests to ensure that we have a fair supply of and timely supply of council resources into the Upper Clutha. We have the opportunity to avoid a lot of the mistakes that Queenstown's made with its development. We need to be proactive, and it's very hard at the moment to get the council to be proactive in terms of Wānaka issues. We just run the risk of repeating all the mistakes that Queenstown made. If we all speak together collectively and strongly, I think we can change that.
Great. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Meg. And thank you, Wānaka Stakeholders Group.